Welcome back. This is the second video of the sixth class for social psychological perspectives on health. In the previous video, we learned the experience of people belonging to low status group, and we learned that belonging to low status group is not necessarily related to low well-being. And the key was that people maintain old identities as well as adding new identities. So in the study with homeless people, when people develop multiple group membership, meaning that when people belong to multiple groups and identify with those groups, their well-being was remained high. And this understanding led the authors to develop a new model. So this is where we start today. And this section is actually I should have covered in the last video, but basically high status. So we have talked about low status people, and then they may be not happy, but they may be happy, and then that depends on whether they could develop group identification as well as multiple group membership. And how about high status group? While low status group may or may not be happy, high status group people are also not always happy. In general, high status groups tend to have more health benefits than lower status groups. And this is because they have more access and material resources to health services. But high status group people would be less healthy if their status position is threatened or unstable, just like animal studies that we have seen before. So, as I said, what we are going to learn in this video is that how much having multiple group membership is related to well-being. So social identity resources facilitate adjustment to life transitions. Members of low status groups tend to struggle life transitions and changes more. And then we will see why this is the case. So first, I will review how social identity plays some roles in life transitions and changes. And so in the previous video, I talked how maintaining the old identities as well as acquiring new identities is important for our well-being. And then based on these observations, the authors developed a new model called the social identity model of identity change. In general, life transitions are positive if they give new opportunities and experiences for people. For example, when people enter university, and this kind of experience gives those students opportunities to extend their knowledge and develop critical thinking. So this is why life transitions are positive. They give new opportunities and experiences. However, life transitions can be negative if they take these away. For example, unemployment, being forced into early retirement, or being diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. And these life transitions would lead to loss of valued important social identity. And this in turn results in cognitive decline and depression. So if life transitions give new opportunities and experiences, it will extend their knowledge and develop critical thinking if the life transitions involve entering a university. But if life transitions involve loss of group membership, then that would lead to cognitive decline and depression. And as I said, a new group membership can buffer negative consequences. So even if they lose important social identity, if they can gain new membership, that would reduce the negative consequences of losing social identity or group membership. So if a university student identifies as a university student after losing a high school student identity, threats to well-being will be minimized. So when high school students, when they graduate from their high school and when they enter a university, they basically lose their high school student identity, but also they may obtain a university student identity. And then this depends on whether they can actually identify with university student identity. So identity change is associated with uncertainty and often requires reorientation to the world. So gain of new identity helps increase certainty or reduce uncertainty and gives orientation. So as I said in the previous lectures, when people belong to groups, they can get new grounding to define themselves. And by knowing how to define the self, people can increase feeling of certainty. And also people can get orientation of their life. So this is why a new group membership is important for people's well-being. And here is the model, the social identity model of identity change. Okay. So when people have more multiple group membership, then they are more likely to gain new identities, and also they are more likely to maintain their old group membership. So in this model, there are two pathways. One is a social identity gain pathway, and the other is social identity continuity pathway. And as you may expect, the upper route is social identity gain pathway, and the under route is social identity continuity pathway. So gain pathway literally means the pathway that people gain new identity. And then continuity pathway refers to whether they could actually maintain their group membership. By maintaining their old group membership, it will give people a sense of continuity of the self. So if they can maintain the old group identity, then they feel that the current self is a product of continued product of the past, from the past. And this those who gain more new identities would have better health and well-being. So the gaining new identities and health and well-being are positively related. And also those who can maintain group membership would enjoy better health and well-being. So there's a positive correlation, positive association between these two variables. And also independent from these two measures or variables, group people who gain more new identities tend to experience group compatibility. Group compatibility means that it refers to the feeling that two identities, or not necessarily two, but the identities that they have are not in conflict each other. They can be harmonized within oneself. And then also those who can maintain group membership. This literally means that this is basically because they can perceive or they can experience the compatibility between their groups. And this also leads to better health and well-being. Okay, so this is the social identity model of identity change. Okay. So, gaining new identities provide a new sense of grounding and belonging. So this is self-definition and the new sources of social support. So by gaining new identities, people can get new social support from their members of the new group. Okay. And if they could maintain old identities as well, then they can still enjoy the old sources of social support. So basically, they can get the social support from the members of their old groups or the groups they used to belong or they still belong. Okay. And regarding to the studies related to multiple group memberships, there are a lot of evidence that shows that there is a lot of evidence for the positive effects of multiple group membership. So for example, when people had a stroke, their their life satisfaction after the stroke tend to be better, but tend to be higher if they have more multiple group membership. And well-being among students transitioning to university would be higher if they have higher multiple group membership. And also women becoming mothers tend to enjoy better well-being if they have multiple group membership. And then older adults retiring from work tend to adapt well if they have multiple group membership. You could also see chapter 7 on aging and then chapter 8 on depression. And then there are many examples of how multiple group membership is related to positive outcomes of health and well-being. Okay. Okay, let me give you one example of a multiple group membership study. This study was done by Ayer and other colleagues in 2009. So this is what they basically found. So let me give you the context of study. This study was done at a British university, and they collect data twice. T1 is 1 month before the start of the first year, and T2 is at 2 months after the start of the first year. So basically, there is a 3 months gap between T1, time 1, and time 2. And what they found was that MGM had a stronger effect than compatibility on identification. Okay, this is not what they found, but so let me walk through the figure. So first, at time 1, they measured compatibility of identities and then multiple group membership. Compatibility of identities basically ask students whether their groups that they belong before entering university or maybe at the moment they responded was compatible with the group they are going to belong, the university. And also they asked whether they belong to many groups at the moment when they responded to the questionnaire. So basically 1 month before the start of the first year. And what they found was that those who belong to more groups tend to identify as university students well. So there's a positive association between multiple group memberships and identification as a university student. And also there was a positive association between compatibility of identities and identification as university students. So basically, those who perceive the compatibility between the groups they belong before entering university sorry, let me say again. So those who perceive the compatibility between the groups they belong before entering university and the university itself tend to actually identify well with as university students, identify themselves well as university student. Okay. And then this identification as a university student at time 2 predicted the depression at time 2 as well. Meaning that those who strongly identify as university students tend to have lower levels of depression. So there was a negative link between identification and depression at time 2. And as I said, this study was done in UK at a British university. And then I think I have talked a lot of the studies conducted in the Western countries like Europe, UK, Australia, and America. So let me give you one example example study that was conducted in Japan. This is actually the study I did. So this study was done with students in Kyoto. And then we also we also asked the participants to complete the questionnaire twice. And the first time was in August, the first year students in August. And what we found was that in August, we asked participants whether they feel that they still maintain the groups that they used to belong. Oh, sorry, let me say. So we basically asked whether they feel that they are still maintaining the group membership, the memberships to groups that they used to belong before entering university. And this measure was positively related with their identification as university students now in August. And this measure was negatively related to perceived stress. Okay, I'm not sure why this sign is positive. Maybe I put a wrong sign, but anyway, the important point here is that I replicated the study by Ayer by showing that maintaining multiple group membership is related to the strong identification as a university student now. And this identification was negatively related to perceived stress, okay? And what more interesting is that the second questionnaire in December. So basically there is a 4 months gap between the first and the second time. So in August, those who identify well with university the levels of identification as a university student was positively related to the levels of identification as a university student at time 2 in December. So those who identify well with university in August also identify well with university in December. Okay. And this level of these levels of identification in August was actually negatively related to perceived stress in December as well. And what I think interesting in this study is that perceived stress in August was not related to the levels of identification in December. So some may expect that those who are experiencing a lot of stress in August may not enjoy good levels of identification as university students in December, right? Like if they are stressed out, then they would not be able to develop good identification with the group. But this was not actually the case. Instead, regardless of their stress in August, whether they can identify with university or not actually matters for their identification in December. And these levels of identification was related to perceived stress in December as well. So I think the importance of supporting students this study shows the importance of supporting students to identify as university students as early as possible. So some people might think that it will be important to reduce the stress that they experience at the early stage of university life. But this may not be really true. What this data set shows is that, well, yeah, people have different levels of stress, and then that's not really good for them. But what more important is that whether they can actually identify with with university. And then if they can identify with university, then their identification as a university student would be higher in December. And this level of identification is actually related to their stress at the same time. Okay. And next. Disadvantage can be a barrier to successful social identity change. So I have been saying that when people face life transitions, those who belong to multiple groups tend to experience better life transitions. And here, we are going to see how the status or disadvantage actually hindered the successful social identity change. People of a low status group have less access to social and material resources. And this means that these people have less control over their lives, and they may face more barriers and constraints to realize their goals in life. And in the following sections, I will talk about three different transitional contexts: education context, housing context, and the community context. So the previous examples I talked, the IED study and also my own study, are the examples of education context. And then I think I will add one more example to this context. And then if I have enough time, I will briefly talk about housing and then community context, how they may be influence our well-being. Okay. So first, educational context. Again, I 2009. SE, social economic status backgrounds are positively related to the number of social groups. So here, I talked about how multiple group membership is related to the identification as university students, and this is also related to depression. But before that, actually, socio-economic status is positively related how many groups they may belong. Okay. So people from higher class backgrounds develop rich social networks composed of multiple groups, but low socioeconomic status students belong to fewer groups, and they may be less successful at taking on the new identity as a university student. And this will in turn leads to lower well-being. Okay. So this is a barrier for people in a disadvantaged group. And this really kind of explains how, and then here is why. Incompatible identities. Low SES students feel that their new identity as a university student is less compatible with their previous ones. For example, most of their friends and families did not attend the university. And this situation will be experienced by those people in the low status group as less comfortable, and then they are more likely to drop out. So this kind of phenomena is often depicted as the term like first year generation. I mean, first generation. And then this means that first generation student means that they are the first in their family to attend the university. And when their parents or even grandparents have never attended the university, they tend to feel that maybe entering university is not really important. All right. And then also when their parents and grandparents have not attended a university, then it is more likely that the neighborhood, the people in the neighborhood also never have attended the university. And then in such case, maybe first generation student would feel that, okay, I'm only the one, maybe I'm different with these people, or maybe I'm in the wrong place. So maybe I should live here, or I don't fit in here, and this will make them feel less comfortable, and then also they make them more likely to drop out. And then when I talked about Black people leaving their Black community, this means that they use individual mobility. So they may leave their old community that tend to be lower status, and they try to join high status group. But when they use this kind of individual mobility strategies, they may face discrimination from both new and old groups. And this is because from old groups, people are perceived as traitors or deserters, right? And then from new groups, they may be treated as different, and therefore they will be they would not be treated well. So maybe you want to go back to the part where I talked about Black community. I think this is a link to that study. Oh, yeah, kind of. An individual may be criticized by members of a group. She or he left, while members of a group she or he newly joined may not treat him well. And there is a study of African Americans moving into a white community in the US by Postmus and Branscombe. And I think this was the first time I mentioned about the study, and then there is, yeah, here. Also the second time I mentioned about study. So maybe you can go back and then reflect what a study found. Reflect on what the study found. So let's come back here. Yeah. And also, okay, so when people feel that they have incompatible identities, then they would experience self-discontinuity, meaning that they feel different from what they used to be and what they are now. And this self-discontinuity is negatively related to well-being. So when they do not feel continuity in the self, then they would feel that they do not have orientation or meaning in their lives. And then this will dampen the well-being. Okay. So I think I'll just stop here, and then in the next class, I will add more examples of life transitions in the housing context. Oh, I'm sorry, education context. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.